Hey VC, it's Roger again. Thank you Anders in Stockholm for the warm welcome to my introductory video the other day. I really appreciate that. We have similar taste in out jazz, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my collection with you at some point. But right now, I want to show some records that I pulled from my introductory video but didn't have time to show. That was a long enough video as it was. You know, I said in that video that my parents' records weren't a big deal in our house, and they weren't. I don't really remember MIDI records being played. My dad had built a Heathkit Hi-Fi receiver with, I think he had some KLH speakers. It was pretty nice stereo. Had a dual turntable. He built this suspension for and everything, and you know, I loved it. I was forbidden to touch it, of course, until I was much older. But you know, they had some soundtracks and things like that. But you know, they both grew up poor, very poor during the Depression in Texas, and so you know, while music was probably important to them growing up, records were a luxury that they could not afford, and continued to live frugal lives. But they had some. So you know, coming up during the war, the big band era, you know, of course, they loved Glenn Miller. And this is a pretty neat piece. It's a numbered limited edition. You can see there. I have no idea how many of these were made. It's not in great shape. And you know, frankly, if I'm going to listen to big band era stuff, it's not going to be Glenn Miller. It's going to be Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Benny Goodman. But you know, I can understand. And these are these interesting 45 EPs. They would squeeze 2, sometimes 3 tracks onto a side, spinning at 45. You know, the sound's not great. You know, and this is pre-vinyl era anyway, so they're not really hi-fi recordings anyway. But this is nice. I'm never gonna play it, but I like having it. And I found a bunch of things that they owned. You know, I don't remember ever hearing these growing up, but they must have played them sometime. You know, I suppose like a lot of people too, they, you know, music was part of their courtship, and then they got married and started having kids, and you know, music becomes less important. And I think a lot of people are like that even today, no matter what their background is. But you know, they had pretty middle-of-the-road tastes. Tommy Dorsey, T for Two, Cha-Cha. Here's another Glenn Miller. It's a great cover. But you know, Artie Shaw. Now you know, Artie Shaw was a good player. He was probably a better and more inventive player than Benny Goodman. But, you know, he had a weird career. You know, he quit the music business to try to write a book, and that didn't work out so good. So he came back to make music and didn't really have control over his own career, it seemed like. I do remember hearing some Artie Shaw around the house. But found a lot of these, Freddie Martin and his orchestra. Budget Camden label. Look at that cover. That's from another era. Freddie Martin, Dance Party. Yeah. And then of course the king of easy listening, Mantovani. Now, so I grew up thinking my parents were pretty much hopelessly square. And, you know, I guess they were. But, you know, I grew up and I came to maybe appreciate some things. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to get into Mantovani. I hope not. But this is another record I remember hearing around the house. Sometimes. Best of Jim Reeves. And this came out in 1964, so I was born in '63. So they were still buying records in '64. This is the evidence of it. And you know, this is Nashville at the height of that countrypolitan, smooth, barely even really what you'd call country music. It's pop music more than anything else. But beautifully recorded. You know, I have a fondness for this record because that song "He'll Have to Go" I think was one of my parents' courtship songs. My dad was in the service. They kind of broke up, and my mom was a pretty woman, and she continued to date while he was overseas. And he came back from the service and found that he had to compete, for her hand. And well, needless to say, he won that war. Much later, when they moved from Connecticut, he retired and they moved. I got to go through some of their old records and take what I wanted, and I found some interesting things. Some things kind of surprised me that they had. Take this out of the sleeve. Harry Belafonte doing the Bad Banana Boat song. That's pretty mainstream. But for my parents, that was a little surprising. They got another one too, "Make a Farewell." And then I kind of remember this too. Blueberry Hill, Fats Domino on Imperial. And another Fats Domino here. This is My Blue Heaven. Note the cut corner on that one. It's cut out. And this on King, Bill Doggett. Honky Tonk Parts 1 and 2. That's pretty soulful organ stuff. Not something I heard around the house, that's for sure. And this really surprised me. Chuck Berry, Sweet Little 16. Now I was in this RCA sleeve, but it's on chess. It's got Reelin' and Rockin' on the back. Now that's pretty cool. I think I remember my dad saying that the rhythm on Sweet Little 16, they could jitterbug to it. They liked that. And square dancing was the thing they did for a while. The country thing. And there's also a story that they saw Hank Williams live sometime before he died in 1953. I don't know. I wish I could ask them now, clarify this stuff. Wish I'd thought about it sooner. But that's the story. This is a CD I gave them. And just as an aside here, this is a really nice sounding CD. CDs of material from the '78 era can sound pretty awful, particularly when you have a major label like Mercury involved. But this was done by the Country Music Hall of Fame here in Nashville. Ted Jensen did the mastering at Sterling. I think this came out in 1998 or something like that. It sounds really good, for that old monophonic '78 era, taken from pre-tape, taken from acetates, things like that. They also had a whole bunch of these record preview coming attractions on RCA Victor, white label promos, from the '50s, and it was a bunch of junk, easy listening stuff you'd never heard of, weird pop things, and I really don't know where they came from. There's a relative who worked at Montgomery Ward's, the department store in Houston. I suspect that some of these came from him, were given to them. Certainly this was not stuff I ever heard. So it's kind of surprising to find this. Sonny Terry, I'm Gonna Rock Your Wig. Backed with Sonny is drinking. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was not played in the house. Big John Greer, Drinking Fool. Backed with Getting Mighty Lonesome for You. That's pretty cool. But that's about as cool as it really got with my parents. After my mom died, I was cleaning out her apartment and found this. Duke Ellington All-Star Road Band. I had this on vinyl somewhere. This is a decent live recording from '57, and I don't think I gave this to them. I think she might have actually bought this. Don't know if she ever listened to it. I like to think that she did. I thought that was pretty cool. So, sorry if these are not really the most exciting records, but I wanted to share them. I wanted to honor my parents. And we're listening to some sentimental music here. Ben Webster with strings on Verve. This 2 CD thing also has Harry Carney in strings, baritone saxophone. It's really beautiful stuff. Kind of old-fashioned, sure, but you know, sometimes I get in that mood. Anyway, folks, thank you. Next time we'll dig into some of that stuff. Bye.